Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something powerful right now. What happens when someone ignores you? Do you shrink back? Do you chase harder? Or do you rise so high that their silence becomes the loudest regret of their life? When someone ignores you, the first reaction most people have is to take it personally. The silence feels like a verdict, as if it defines who you are and what you are worth. But the truth is, being ignored is never a definition of your value, it is a test. It is life, relationships, and people asking a silent question: how much do you believe in yourself when someone else pretends you don't exist? In those moments, your response matters more than the rejection itself. You can either allow their neglect to shape your sense of self, or you can stand firm in your worth and let your actions prove that your value was never up for negotiation. When you choose yourself, you refuse to let silence translate into shame. You understand that ignoring can come from many places: immaturity, distraction, manipulation, or simply a lack of alignment. None of these reasons diminish your worth. Instead, they reveal the character of the person choosing not to engage. By recognizing this, you shift the meaning of being ignored. It no longer feels like a scar on your identity. It becomes a mirror that reflects both their limitations and your strength to rise above it. Choosing yourself means redefining the power dynamic. If someone tests your value by withdrawing attention, your instinct might be to prove yourself, to chase after validation. But when you chase, you fail the test, because you show that their absence dictates your sense of security. Choosing yourself means doing the opposite. It means holding your ground, maintaining your standards, and continuing to live fully even without their recognition. In that moment, you are saying, you can ignore me, but I will not ignore myself. This mindset transforms the way you experience relationships. Instead of seeing silence as rejection, you see it as revelation. When someone ignores you, they reveal their inability or unwillingness to connect in the way you deserve. That information empowers you because it helps you decide where to invest your time and energy. Choosing yourself is not about fighting for attention. It is about reserving your energy for those who value it without hesitation. By doing so, you teach others, through your actions, that your presence is not cheap and your worth is not conditional. The test of being ignored is also a test of patience and discipline. Many people act impulsively when they feel rejected. They send long messages, over-explain, or attempt to force a response. But when you choose yourself, you resist that urge. You give space for the silence to speak for itself. You allow their actions to reveal their priorities without you interfering. This patience is powerful because it sends a clear signal. You are not afraid of losing someone who cannot see your worth. You are more committed to keeping your dignity than clinging to a bond that disrespects it. Choosing yourself also means investing in the things that expand your sense of value outside of anyone's attention. It could be nurturing your goals, strengthening your friendships, or deepening your passions. These investments remind you daily that your identity is rich and multifaceted, not dependent on one person's recognition. So, when someone ignores you, you don't collapse, you expand. You pour your energy into growth, and in doing so, you teach the world, and yourself, that your worth is measured by the life you build, not by the attention you receive. Over time, this mindset shifts how people interact with you. Those who once thought they could test you with silence begin to realize that ignoring you doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you. They see that your confidence is not fragile, and your presence is not desperate. You set a precedent: if someone wants access to you, they must value you consistently, not conditionally. And that is the ultimate lesson hidden in the test of being ignored. Chasing someone who does not reciprocate your energy is one of the fastest ways to erode both self-respect and the respect that person has for you. Respect is built when boundaries are clear, when value is recognized, and when two people meet one another halfway. The moment you chase, you upset that balance. You communicate, often without realizing it, that the other person's approval matters more than your own dignity. Instead of standing in your worth, you start running after someone else's validation. And in that act, you tell them they are the prize and you are the pursuer who must earn them. This imbalance destroys attraction, but more importantly, it weakens the relationship you have with yourself. Choosing yourself means understanding that love and attention must flow naturally, not be forced through pursuit. When someone withdraws or ignores you, your reaction reveals where your loyalty truly lies. If you abandon yourself to chase them, you give away the very respect that makes you valuable. But when you choose yourself, you send the opposite signal: your attention is valuable, your energy is rare, and your presence is not something anyone can take for granted. Chasing kills respect because it makes your availability unlimited, and unlimited availability often leads to devaluation. When you choose yourself, you reclaim your scarcity. You show that your time and love have standards, and that anyone who wants them must step up to earn them. Chasing also erodes respect because it creates pressure instead of desire. When someone is distant or detached, and you respond by leaning in harder, you remove the space necessary for them to appreciate you. You replace curiosity with obligation. Instead of wondering about you, they feel cornered by your pursuit. Choosing yourself corrects this pattern. You withdraw when your efforts are not met, not as punishment, but as an act of self-alignment. You refuse to chase because you know real connection is mutual. By holding back, you give space for the other person to choose you freely, and in doing so, you preserve both their respect for you and your respect for yourself. There is also a psychological cost in chasing that extends beyond the relationship. Every time you run after someone who doesn't prioritize you, you reinforce the belief that your worth is negotiable. You condition yourself to accept crumbs because you convince yourself that fighting for them is normal. Over time, this erodes your self-esteem. Choosing yourself breaks this cycle. It requires you to accept the temporary discomfort of letting go in order to build the long-term strength of self-respect. When you refuse to chase, you send a message to yourself that you deserve reciprocity, and that your heart is not a bargaining chip. Chasing kills respect because it highlights desperation, and desperation is the opposite of confidence. People respect those who respect themselves, and they are drawn to those who know their value. When you choose yourself, you embody confidence even when someone withdraws. You show stability rather than neediness. You demonstrate that your happiness does not depend on someone else's attention. This independence is magnetic because it removes pressure and restores balance. Instead of pushing them away with pursuit, you allow them the space to recognize your worth on their own terms. Another dimension to consider is how chasing teaches others how to treat you. If every time they pull back, you lean in, you train them to see that they can withdraw without consequence. They learn that no matter what, you will show up to fill the gap. That dynamic not only kills respect, it creates complacency. Why would they invest when they know you will do the work for both of you? Choosing yourself interrupts this pattern. You show that when they pull back, you do not chase, you mirror. You protect your dignity, and in doing so, you create a silent boundary that demands respect. They realize that to keep your presence, they must give effort, because your attention is not guaranteed. Choosing yourself also allows you to redirect your energy toward what strengthens you rather than what weakens you. Chasing drains you emotionally because it is fueled by anxiety and the fear of loss. Standing firm in your worth replenishes you because it is rooted in trust. Trust that the right people will meet you with the same energy, and trust that your value is constant whether or not it is recognized. By choosing yourself, you end the exhausting cycle of chasing and instead invest in self-growth, passion, and fulfillment. That investment makes you radiant, and respect naturally follows. When you internalize this truth, you begin to understand that every act of chasing is really an act of abandoning yourself. Every moment you run after someone who is not reaching for you, you step further away from your own power. Choosing yourself reclaims that power. It tells the world and yourself that your value is not proven through pursuit, but preserved through presence. In that stance, respect is no longer something you beg for. It is something you command. Power is not something that others give you. It is something you claim when you decide to stop negotiating your value. The moment you recognize that your worth does not need external validation, you begin to step into your own power. Many people lose themselves by constantly trying to prove they are enough for others. They measure their value through someone else's approval, attention, or affection, and in doing so, they hand over their power. But when you choose yourself, you take that power back. You stop asking, "Am I worthy in their eyes?" and start affirming, "I am worthy because I exist, because I know what I bring, because I live in alignment with who I am." Stepping into your worth changes how you show up in every interaction. When you know your value, you no longer tolerate inconsistency, neglect, or disrespect. You do not waste energy convincing someone to see what you already know about yourself. Choosing yourself means drawing a line between what you deserve and what you will no longer accept. That line is not a wall, it is a standard. It protects your heart from being diminished by those who cannot rise to meet it. The standard itself is the power, because it forces others to treat you in accordance with the way you treat yourself. Your worth also influences how you carry yourself in silence and solitude. Many fear being alone because they believe solitude proves a lack of value, but in truth, solitude is where worth is cultivated. When you choose yourself, you fill your life with passions, goals, and self-love that reinforce your inner richness. You learn that your life is not waiting for someone to validate it, it is already valuable and complete. This mindset creates independence, and independence is magnetic. People respect and are drawn to those who radiate wholeness without clinging to external approval. By stepping into your worth, you transform your presence into one that commands respect without demanding it. When you live in your worth, rejection and neglect no longer define you. Instead, they filter out those who are incapable of recognizing what you bring. You begin to see that not every lost connection is a loss, sometimes it is a protection. Choosing yourself in these moments keeps your confidence intact. Instead of chasing or begging for recognition, you let go gracefully, trusting that your worth is constant. That steadiness is power because it makes you unshakable. You no longer collapse when someone undervalues you. You stand firm, knowing their perspective does not alter your truth. Stepping into your worth also empowers you to set intentions rather than chase outcomes. Instead of hoping someone will choose you, you focus on whether they align with the standards you've already set. This shift places you in the position of decision maker rather than the one waiting for a decision. Choosing yourself flips the script. You become the chooser, not the chosen. This perspective removes desperation and replaces it with discernment. You no longer ask, will they pick me? But rather, do they deserve a place in my life? That single shift is where true power lies. Another layer of stepping into your worth is the confidence to walk away. Many people stay in situations that diminish them because they fear what leaving says about their value. But the willingness to leave when respect is absent is one of the most powerful demonstrations of self-worth. It shows that you would rather stand alone in dignity than remain in a place that undermines your spirit. Choosing yourself is not about arrogance, it is about self-preservation. When you protect your worth, you safeguard the energy and love you have to give. That protection ensures that when you do share yourself, it is with those who honor and appreciate it. Your power in stepping into your worth also reshapes how you communicate. Instead of pleading for respect, you express your needs with clarity and calm. You do not raise your voice to prove a point, because you know your voice carries weight when it comes from a place of confidence. People listen differently when they sense someone who believes in themselves. This composure is not loud, but it is undeniable. It commands attention without chasing it. Choosing yourself in communication means you speak with conviction, but also with the freedom to walk away if those words are not honored. Finally, stepping into your worth brings peace. When you no longer measure yourself by someone else's standard, you stop living in a state of constant anxiety. You accept that not everyone will see your value, but that does not make you less valuable. Peace comes from knowing that your worth is not fragile, not conditional, not negotiable. It is steady, and because of that steadiness, your power is untouchable. Choosing yourself is the daily practice of protecting, honoring, and amplifying that truth until it becomes unshakable in every area of your life. Absence has a way of speaking volumes that words and actions sometimes fail to convey. When you step back from someone who takes your presence for granted, your silence and distance become a message in themselves. Presence often feels comfortable to others, it can be expected, assumed, or even overlooked. But absence interrupts patterns, it disrupts the rhythm someone has grown used to, and in that disruption, they are forced to confront what your presence truly meant. Choosing yourself is often about having the courage to allow absence to do the work that chasing and explaining never could. Presence can be diluted when it is constant and unappreciated. When you are always available, always present, always giving, people can mistakenly believe that your presence will never leave. This belief causes them to undervalue it. But when you choose yourself by stepping back, you break that illusion. The absence becomes a mirror, reflecting the reality of what life feels like without your energy, attention, or love. That absence does not beg or plead, yet it commands attention more powerfully than any words could. Absence is louder than presence because it shifts focus from what is assumed to what is missing. A person may not notice the warmth of light when it fills a room every day, but they cannot ignore the darkness when the light goes out. In the same way, someone may not notice the consistency of your presence until it is gone. Choosing yourself means understanding that you do not need to over-explain your worth. Sometimes your absence is the explanation. It makes people realize that what they took for granted was not guaranteed, and that realization often leaves a deeper mark than your presence ever did. Choosing yourself in this way also prevents you from falling into the trap of overcompensating. When you feel ignored or underappreciated, the instinct is often to do more, to prove your value, to remain ever present until the other person finally recognizes it. But this effort frequently backfires. Instead of increasing your value, it lowers it, because it signals that your worth depends on their recognition. Absence flips that script. When you step away, you show that your worth stands independently. You are not seeking their validation. You are demanding their respect, not with words, but with silence and space. Absence also recenters you in your own life. Choosing yourself is not only about teaching others how to treat you, it is about reminding yourself of your own value. When you pull away from those who ignore or neglect you, you give yourself the gift of clarity. You feel the difference between investing in someone who drains you and investing in yourself. In that space, you reconnect with your priorities, your growth, your passions. This self-realignment is powerful because it strengthens your identity. Instead of losing yourself in the presence of others, you find yourself in the strength of your own absence from them. The power of absence also lies in its finality. Words can be dismissed, debated, or ignored, but absence is undeniable. It cannot be argued with. It cannot be misinterpreted. It is a statement of boundaries, one that requires no further explanation. When you choose yourself and step back, you stop negotiating your value. You leave space for others to decide whether they will rise to meet your standards or lose access to you. That decision belongs to them, but the boundary belongs to you. Absence enforces that boundary in a way that presence often cannot. Absence creates contrast, and contrast creates awareness. People cannot appreciate warmth without experiencing cold, nor can they appreciate abundance without having known lack. Your absence creates that contrast in someone's life. It gives them the opportunity to realize what your presence truly meant. Whether they do or not is beyond your control, but the act of stepping back ensures that you no longer waste yourself on someone who does not see your worth. Choosing yourself is about trusting that your absence will either awaken respect or confirm incompatibility, and in either case you win. Absence also strengthens attraction when applied with dignity. People are naturally drawn to what they cannot easily access. When you choose yourself and stop making yourself endlessly available, your presence becomes valuable again. The scarcity of it creates desire. Your absence makes your presence meaningful. Because it is no longer assumed, it is earned. This principle works not as a game, but as a reflection of truth. Your attention is precious, and those who want it must treat it as such. Choosing yourself through absence also teaches you the discipline of detachment. It proves that you can walk away without losing yourself, that you are not bound to anyone else's recognition of your worth. This discipline builds resilience. It allows you to navigate relationships with confidence, knowing that if someone fails to appreciate you, you have the strength to let your absence speak instead of begging your presence to be noticed. In that silence, you reclaim your dignity, and in that distance, you preserve your power. Thriving without someone who undervalues you is the ultimate expression of self-respect and personal strength. When someone pulls away, ignores you, or refuses to invest in you, it is easy to believe that your life must pause until they return or recognize your worth. This belief is what keeps people trapped in cycles of chasing and waiting. But choosing yourself means breaking that cycle completely. It means understanding that your life does not lose its purpose or beauty simply because one person failed to value it. Instead, you continue to grow, to flourish, and to shine, proving not only to them but more importantly to yourself that your happiness is never dependent on another person's attention. Thriving without them starts with reclaiming your focus. Instead of pouring your energy into wondering why they ignored you, what you could have done differently, or how you can get them back, you redirect that energy inward. You ask yourself, what can I build for myself today? What goals can I pursue? What passions can I explore? This shift immediately takes the power back from them and places it in your own hands. The absence of their attention no longer dictates your direction. You are steering your own life, and every step forward is proof that you are capable of thriving without their presence. When you choose yourself, thriving becomes an act of transformation. You stop waiting for validation from someone who has withheld it, and instead create validation from your own achievements and growth. Whether it is advancing in your career, deepening friendships, improving your health, or nurturing your talents, each investment in yourself adds to your sense of fulfillment. Over time, this builds a life that feels abundant, not empty. You thrive not because they returned, but because you never stopped moving forward when they left. This resilience becomes one of your greatest sources of strength, because it shows that no one else controls the trajectory of your life. Thriving without them also changes the way others perceive you. When people see that you can carry on with dignity, and even grow stronger in the absence of someone's attention, they recognize your independence. It sends the clear message that you are not someone who collapses under neglect. Your life is rich with or without their involvement. This self-sufficiency demands respect. Even the person who once ignored you may eventually realize that your ability to thrive without them is what sets you apart. And whether they return or not, you remain empowered because your thriving was never about winning them back. It was about proving to yourself that you never needed them to begin with. Another reason thriving without them is so powerful is that it transforms pain into progress. Being ignored or undervalued often stings, but that pain can become fuel. Instead of letting rejection break you, you use it as motivation to elevate yourself. You take the disappointment and channel it into building something greater. You pursue goals you may have postponed. You develop habits that enrich your well-being. You show yourself that what seemed like a setback was actually the foundation for a comeback. This alchemy, turning neglect into growth, is one of the strongest forms of choosing yourself. Thriving also requires discipline, because it means resisting the urge to check if they notice your progress. When you choose yourself, the focus of thriving is not on them, it is on you. You grow because you deserve to grow, not because you want them to regret losing you. The moment your progress is centered on revenge or validation, you give your power away again. But when your progress is rooted in self-love and self-respect, it becomes authentic. It becomes sustainable. You thrive for you, not for anyone else. Thriving without them creates a ripple effect in every area of your life. Your confidence increases because you no longer feel powerless in the face of rejection. Your relationships improve because you no longer tolerate those who drain you. Instead, you attract those who recognize your strength. Your mental health benefits because you are no longer stuck replaying unanswered questions. You are too busy creating new answers through your own growth. In every way, thriving builds a life that feels whole and vibrant, regardless of who chooses to walk beside you. Most importantly, thriving without them reaffirms that your value was never dependent on being chosen. You realize that their absence did not diminish you, it revealed you. It gave you the chance to step fully into your independence, to discover how much you could grow when no one else was carrying you. Choosing yourself means that no matter who leaves, you will continue to rise. Thriving without them becomes both the lesson and the proof that your worth is not up for debate. Your value does not rise when someone admires you, and it does not fall when someone ignores you. Attention can feel validating, but it is not the source of your worth. The moment you tie your sense of value to whether or not someone notices you, you give away your power. You become dependent on external recognition to feel whole. But when you choose yourself, you step into the truth that your value is constant, unchanged by their silence, unchanged by their rejection, unchanged by their absence. It exists whether they see it or not. When you believe your worth depends on attention, you begin to compromise yourself. You may over-give, over-explain, or chase after someone just to keep their eyes on you. In those moments, you act from fear, the fear that without their attention, you are less important. But when you choose yourself, you break this cycle. You affirm that their gaze is not the measure of your identity. You are valuable because of what you bring, who you are, and how you show up for yourself, regardless of who is watching. This shift frees you from the exhausting need to prove yourself. Attention is fleeting, worth is permanent. Someone can choose to look away, get distracted, or turn their back. None of these actions reduce the qualities that make you who you are. Your kindness, intelligence, strength, beauty, and resilience do not disappear when someone fails to acknowledge them. Choosing yourself means you refuse to allow temporary neglect to erase permanent truths. You hold on to your sense of self even when it is not reflected back to you. This stability is what creates inner confidence, the kind that cannot be shaken by someone else's behavior. When you recognize that your value is independent of their attention, you stop playing the role of performer. You stop altering yourself to fit what will capture their focus. Instead, you live authentically, guided by your standards and desires. Choosing yourself means building a life that feels right to you, not one designed to keep someone else interested. And paradoxically, when you stop living for attention, you often attract more of it because authenticity is magnetic. But the key is that you no longer need it. It becomes a complement to your life, not the foundation of your self-worth. This truth also changes the way you experience rejection. Being ignored or dismissed hurts, but it does not define you when you know your value is stable. Rejection simply reveals a mismatch, not a deficiency. Choosing yourself allows you to walk away without crumbling, because you understand that their lack of attention does not alter your worth. You are not less valuable because one person failed to see it. Their perception is their limitation, not your reality. This mindset gives you resilience. It allows you to navigate relationships with strength instead of desperation. Believing that your value is tied to their attention creates a dangerous cycle of dependency. You begin to crave validation as if it were oxygen, and without it, you feel like you are suffocating. But when you choose yourself, you breathe freely because your validation comes from within. You set goals, pursue passions, and celebrate your own growth. You learn to enjoy your own company and take pride in your own progress. These acts remind you daily that your worth is self-sustaining. You do not need someone else to tell you that you matter, you already know it. This independence is what keeps your standards intact. If your value depends on their attention, you will lower your boundaries to keep them engaged. You will accept disrespect, inconsistency, or neglect just to hold on to their gaze. But when you know your worth is independent, you protect your boundaries fiercely. You walk away from anything that does not align with your value, because you do not need their attention to feel complete. Choosing yourself makes you unafraid of losing people, because you understand that losing someone who cannot respect your worth is not a loss. It is protection. Your value being independent of their attention also allows you to love more freely. When you do not depend on recognition to feel worthy, you can give without fear, because your self-esteem does not rise or fall with their response. You can connect without clinging, care without chasing, and love without losing yourself. Choosing yourself anchors you, so that even in love you remain whole. Their attention may come and go, but your sense of value remains steady, and that steadiness allows you to build healthier, more balanced relationships. The ultimate strength in this truth is peace. Knowing your worth is not tethered to their attention frees you from the chaos of needing to be seen at all times. You can rest in the confidence that your value is permanent. Whether they look or not, whether they stay or not, whether they recognize it or not, you remain enough. That inner knowing is what choosing yourself truly means, and it is the foundation for a life where your power and peace are no longer dependent on the shifting focus of someone else's eyes.